Morning, Shabbat Shalom, Congregation Beth-El. This is Rabbi Jenni Greenspan, getting ready for Torah talk for this Shabbat morning for Parashat Tzav and for Shabbat Hagadol. I'm going to give a few minutes for others to join. If you don't yet have a copy, if you don't have a physical copy of Chumash Etz Chaim at home, you can also go to our Beth-El website, BEZ613.org. Click on the Shabbat resources and scroll all the way down to Torah Talk resources, where you'll find a link to a PDF of this week's Torah portion, as well as the Haftorah, the special selection from the prophets that Rabbi Dennis mentioned last night in our candlelighting together. The Rabbinical Assembly has generously made the Torah portion available as a scan of the very book that we are used to using in our pews. So again, if you don't have a physical copy of Etz Chaim, go ahead and go over to BEZ613.org, click on the Shabbat resources, and then scroll all the way down to Torah Talk resources, where you'll get that PDF that was generously provided by the Rabbinical Assembly. The section I will be focusing on this morning comes from Leviticus chapter 6, verse 3 and 4, which on the PDF is the fourth page down, and in a physical copy of Etz Chaim is on page 614. So if you want to take a look at that, go ahead and track down a copy of that PDF on our website or from the Rabbinical Assembly, or use page 614 of our physical Red Etz Chaim Chumash. I'll give us just a minute until we have a few more people, and then I will get us started. I see good morning to Cindy and to Mickey Ashworth and to someone on, probably Jackie, also logged in with Beth-El's page, and to my parents, Shabbat Shalom and good morning, and Amanda Siegel, lots of good morning and lots of wonderful people to get to study with. So Shabbat Shalom. I'll give us 20 more seconds, see if anyone else wants to join us, and then we will get started, and they'll catch us up either in a little bit or on our YouTube feed later, where we will move the video to. Shabbat Shalom to Scott and to Margot Fox. Okay, I'll go ahead and get started now. So as I mentioned, we are on Parashat Tzav, which is a special Torah portion in my family, because it was my sister's bat mitzvah Torah portion. It was a special portion to me and to my family, and I want to acknowledge my little sister Kaylee, who is also going to be joining rabbinical school coming soon, and an opportunity to revisit her Torah portion. I won't say how long ago her bat mitzvah was, because that's not fair to do without her permission. But Parashat Tzav, she pointed out to me a couple of verses that I also got to study with one of my favorite teachers, Rabbi Sean Fields-Meyer. So I'm studying with both of those people in mind as my great loves and teachers. So we are on page 614 of the Etz Chaim Chumash. If you were able to track down our PDF from the Rabbinical Assembly of the Chumash from our website, it's the fourth page on the PDF. It'll also say page 614. If you're using a different book to follow along in the Torah verses, I'm in Leviticus chapter 6, verses 3 and 4. I'm going to read first in the Hebrew, then the English. Belevash hakohen mido vad, umichnesei vad yilbash al b'saro, veherim et hadeshen, asher tochal ha'esh et ha'olah al hamizbeach, vesamo etzel hamizbeach, ufashat et begadav, ולבש בגדים אחרים, והוציא את הדשן אל מחוץ למחנה אל מקום טהור. The priest will dress in a linen raiment or linen garment with linen breeches next to his body, and he shall take up the ashes to which the fire has reduced the burnt offering on the altar and place them next to the altar. He shall then take off his priestly vestments and put on other vestments, and carry the ashes outside the camp to a pure place. There's a lot going on in these two verses that I find fascinating. We have the fact that right after the sacrificial offerings have burnt up completely, we have the priest setting aside the ashes, while he's wearing his special linen clothing, he sets aside the ashes, and then he goes to change his clothes before removing the ashes from the mizbeach and from the camp. He takes them out of the camp and discards them. There's a couple of questions that come to my mind with that. One is, why is the priest wearing different clothes for the two steps of this process? And another might be, why is the priest himself taking these ashes out of the camp? Often we are used to, when it is a business of sorts or a leadership organization, which the temple may very well have been with the priests running the sacrificial systems, that there are others whose role it is to take out the ashes and to take out the trash in many of our modern contexts. These ashes, while holy because they are the remnants of the sacrifices, also need to be cleared away. In the end, they're the leftovers. They're somewhat equivalent to the trash. So these two things leave me with these two questions. Why is the priest himself taking out these ashes, and why does he have to change clothes to do it? So I think that these are very relevant questions and a very relevant thought right now, because clothing right now is I will admit, and I believe I am not alone, in this time when I'm spending most of my time at home and working from home, I'm not dressing quite as nicely as I might normally do when going into the office. Or I might wear a nicer shirt, but not as necessarily change out of my jeans or even my yoga pants on the bottom half of my body. And I think that that's true for a lot of us right now. We have this sense of order that has been thrown into disorder, and our clothing is often a way that we can express that. So I think it's very interesting to look at this priest right now and how he's wearing his clothes and what he's doing with his clothes. So Rashi, our famous medieval commentator from France who lived in the late 1000s, early 1100s, he suggests that this is actually not a commandment from God. God is not commanding this priest to change his clothes, but rather it's a statement of a matter of decency, that we don't want the priest later, the next time he goes to offer a sacrifice, to be wearing the nice clothes, have his nice clothes messed up from having worn his nice clothes out to take the ashes out. That when he takes the ashes out, those clothes might get dirty. And so the next time he goes to honor God and to offer a sacrifice, he wouldn't want his clothes to have been messed up from the previous time. And so Rashi says he changes his clothes so that the ashes don't mess up the nicer clothes, which I think is very interesting right now when many of us spending most of our times inside may not be wearing quite as nice clothing as we do when we run out even to the mailbox. And so it offers us the opportunity to think a little bit. Why do we choose certain clothing at different times? I think we also get from Rashi is that we are expected in certain contexts to be wearing our nicer clothing, that there are certain times when we do want to wear nicer clothes, and that it isn't necessarily the moments that are the most obvious, but that when we're before God, we want to wear the nicer clothes. Later on this week, we'll have the opportunity for our Passover Seders, many of us via Zoom, some of us just in smaller groups in our homes. Might be tempting if it's just us at home to not put on as nice clothing, but Rashi's actually pointing here that when we're spending time with God, we do want to wear our nicer clothes, and that our less nice clothes should be saved for the more menial tasks so that our nicer clothes don't get messed up. This is also the source in the Talmud for the tradition of wearing nice clothes on Shabbat and on holidays. There's another commentator, and this is where I have to say thank you to my Mora Gedola, to my great teacher, Rabbi Sean Fieldsmeyer, named Bachya ibn Pekuda. He's a Spanish commentator living around the same time as Rashi, who says that this notion of the priest wearing the nice clothes before God and the less nice clothes to take out the ashes, it's not about the ashes themselves. It's not about the ashes messing up his nicer clothes, but it is a sense of seeking humility, that he is to wear the less nice clothes when he is back out of the Holy of Holies and in the presence of other human beings, that within the Holy of Holies, when it is just him and God, just the Kohen Gadol, the priest, the high priest, Aaron in the context of the timing of the Torah portion today, that he wears the nice clothes for God and the less nice clothes for others. And this again makes me think about right now when we are inside our homes, somewhat on our own, just us and God. The last couple of weeks I've been pointing out ways we can make our homes into our holy space. We're not necessarily wearing quite as nice clothing as we do when we go out, and others might see us in the brief moments out to our mailboxes or to the grocery stores. And this is suggesting that we want to have a certain level of humility, that before others, we don't need to look as nice as we do before God, that God gets to have the moment of seeing our best selves. And I think it pushes us the other way if we also think in the other direction. If it's a lesson of humility of wearing the less nice clothes in front of other human beings, sometimes our clothing is a way that we can also garner confidence in ourselves, and that when the Kohen Gadol is before God in the Holy of Holies, he's wearing his nicer clothes to give himself the strength to believe that he is worthy of being in God's presence. I think that these two notions back and forth of whether our good clothes are for God or for others, and our good clothes give us the strength and the confidence to be in holy space with one another and with God, I think is the lesson that we have for today. I think right now we are in a moment where we are trying to remember when to wear our nicer clothes and when to wear our less nice clothes. And I think that we have this lesson slipped in here in the Torah portion, that when we are in the Holy of Holies, which may be our homes right now, we can wear our nicest clothes. And when we are out doing the more menial tasks, the less important tasks of holy, for holy purposes anyway, we can wear our more comfortable clothes, our house clothes as it might be. And I think that it's a lesson to remember that our clothing can create our mindset, and that our clothing can set our tone for the day. And so this week, when we head to our seders, though the word seder means order and we are living in a state of disorder, I invite us to give ourselves the gift of still dressing a little bit nicer, setting our mindset for holiness, for Pesach later this week, and to think a little bit about how we are spending our time in our homes and how we are dressing and what those what our clothes might be doing for our own mindsets. See lots of others to say Shabbat Shalom to. Shabbat Shalom to Bernie, my father-in-law. My parents are here. Alan Hamburger, Rob Kirsch, Rabbi Sasso's here. Good to see everyone. Shabbat Shalom. And I invite you to please join Cantor Melissa Cohen in just a few minutes at 10:30, also here on Facebook Live. She will be doing some Shabbat chants encounters, some from Parashat Tzav, and possibly a bit for Shabbat Hagadol. Again, if you want to just read for yourself, the PDF is available of this week's Torah portion, as well as the selection, the Haftarah, the selection of the Book of the Prophets for Shabbat Hagadol, the Shabbat leading into Pesach, that is from the RA, from the Rabbinical Assembly, is available on our website, is a PDF. And Shabbat Shalom. I look forward to seeing everyone later on this evening for Havdalah on Zoom. Shabbat Shalom.